Neuro-Spicy Music Teacher here, hopefully with better sound. Because I did a chat a few minutes ago and then people were saying the sound sucked, and then I was like, why? And then I realized I had the Bluetooth on in my car. I drive this really old car. It's like 25 years old. And I have this like remote Bluetooth thingy so that I can like have my phone up on the dash and see my maps and things because I get lost everywhere, even with the maps. But anyways, I had the Bluetooth on. So I'm thinking that was probably the issue, right? So I should have just my phone speaker working now. So hopefully that's good. If not, someone throw in the comments that in fact my sound still sucks. I'm open to the criticism. Let me know. So tonight I'm popping on as Sarah Batchelor, Neuro-Spicy Music Teacher, still teacher in the province of Alberta. Just to kind of do an update on the elections Alberta data leak, and then I want to talk about why maybe separatism isn't that big a deal, which is crazy because I go on and on about it, and so many others of us do. But the longer this goes on, the more I think we're missing the point. So let's start with the voter data link. So Elections Alberta gave the voters data list to the Republican Party of Alberta completely legally. Okay, that part's fine. Well, I don't know if it's fine, but it's above board. Then members of that party shared it with private citizens who are involved in the separatist movement, specifically with the Centurion Project. They, the gentleman David, created this searchable database so that general citizens who are signed up to be canvassers can search. And I don't know other than if they're going to just search and add from that list to the petition to the petition, so that they can get their referendum question on. Like they're just trying to pad the votes because I don't know how else that would help them, right? Like as somebody who has done canvassing for petitions for recalls, I know that we use the published information online. We didn't have to steal it or get it given to us legally. We just looked and we sort of looked for neighborhoods that would be maybe more friendly to us knocking on their door. So that's where we started. Um, we used it to, well, just like they're saying, to get the signatures we wanted, to reach out to the people that we want to connect with. We didn't need the voters list to do that, and neither did they. So I don't understand, other than because there's signature cards in there and they can just copy right across. There's our postal codes, our names, all of that. They can just add them to a petition. I don't know what other purpose that database had for them, right? We've discussed a lot of the consequences of this for people's safety and that in other videos. But the question I want to start with today is now what do we do? Because I'm still seeing a lot of people asking, how am I going to find out if my name's been used on the petition? How am I going to find out if my data has been leaked? And the answer is you're not, unless when the Alberta Elections Alberta EA are checking the petitions to make sure that the signatures are in fact valid. So they always grab a sampling and they make some phone calls. I was actually called to vet my signature for the Forever Canada one. Did you sign it? Yes, I did. Awesome. Have a nice day. Right. Um, Now, if I'd said no, they'd be like, oh, okay. And then they would have had to put greater scrutiny to the rest of the signatures on that page. Then they would have to look at all of the signatures sent in by that canvasser because we all had canvasser numbers. Um, right? So a specific so you couldn't just go and look and see if your name's been put on this petition illegally. Okay. And even if you email and ask, Elections Alberta isn't going to tell you. The only way you're going to find out is when they're vetting, if they phone you, and then you say no, my name wasn't there, and then that puts it to higher scrutiny because they have to have 95% of the signatures proved to be valid for it to move on to the next level. And honestly, that doesn't even matter because what is this live stream about? Well, the first part of it is about the data breach, and then we're transitioning into the separatist conversation. So, why does a data breach matter? It matters. It still matters greatly. If you're a victim of identity fraud because of this, you have recourse through the RCMP. There's some recourse you may have through PIPA, that's the Privacy Commission. But other than that, no, you don't have a lot of recourse until something bad happens to you. So I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm in the same boat, right? Nobody wants their private information out there. And then there was some from people who are anti-separatists too, like they're the pages I belong to the most. They're putting out their Bill 33 allows them to sell your data. That's misinformation. So I'm going to call out misinformation regardless of where it's coming from. And this is coming from the people I talk to. No, no, that's not what Bill 33 is going to do. What Bill 33 says is if the province of Alberta sells the lottery and gaming group, the Play Alberta, I think it's called, if they sell that, then they can also sell the data they've collected through online gambling, that sort of stuff. Is that okay? Probably not. Do we want them privatizing our lottery? Probably not. But that leads me nicely into the whole conversation of why are we still arguing and worrying about separatism quite so much? Okay, here's the deal. Somebody who's taught social studies and Canadian history and that, I'm going to tell you that the chances of a separatist petition making it onto the referendum in and of itself is not likely, um, because the courts have said they can't. So basically, the whole petition's been paused at this point because guess what they did not do? They did not consult with the Indigenous people. And why is this important? Because Indigenous land and our treaties are all negotiated through the Crown, right? So that's Great Britain, that's Canada, right? So the Indigenous people have agreements with an entity that is larger than the province. So the province can't just go in and sever those treaties, can't interfere in those treaties. Those treaties would have to be renegotiated with the Crown, right? And they did this without consulting the Indigenous people, right? There was no formal conversations about this, to say, hey, are you guys on board with us or not? Because I think they probably guessed they weren't going to be on side, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. But the courts have now said, no, I'm sorry, this petition is invalid. Now, will it still end up on the referendum? It might. Danielle Smith has said that it will. And to do that, she's probably going to have to do some shenanigans and take away rights and the notwithstanding clause and thing again. But she absolutely can make it so that it happens if she runs our province like it's a dictatorship and not a democracy. But you know what? I don't even care if that happens. Let it happen. One of the things I like about the separatist thing is people are out there exercising their democratic freedoms by going out and getting signatures on petitions, by lobbying your government. This is positive things. This is engagement. Now, are we on the same side of what we want? Absolutely not. But you know what? I'm glad that you're out there engaging. And I'm glad that you might get your petition question onto the referendum so that the rest of us can vote. Because chances are, very, very, very likely, that it's not going to pass anywhere from there. Now, in the very odd chance that it did, there's a whole pile of other steps, but the final sort of thing is, in a nutshell, Canada has to vote that you can go, right? The other provinces and territories, I believe it's 7 out of the 10, have to give assent and say, yeah, no, we're fine with Alberta leaving. And then you can run into all your plans and concerns about that you haven't thought of about borders and, currencies and security issues and pensions and healthcare and all of these things that because universal healthcare comes from Canada, right? Like it's there's so many barriers to separatism. There really are. And although it makes a lot of us anxious and we don't like the conversation, why are we letting it have all the oxygen in the room? Because by focusing on separatism, what we're doing is we are spreading ourselves thin, right? There's so many things going on in our province. If you go back to my other videos from AISH, which is our special needs funding for people who can't work or to support people with disabilities. My daughter, Aowen, she's on that because she has autism and the level of disability she has isn't supportable in a workplace, right? She's an adult. She needs to live. She has AISH, right? I have a friend, Rita, who is a delightfully intelligent, artistic, crazy woman who's on AISH because of physical things with her jaw, and she's always getting surgery. She can't work, right? So forcing these people to work and then giving them less money every month than they were getting on AISH, that's a problem, right? I mean, it's soft eugenics. We can talk about how this government is, trying to cull the herd, so to speak, by getting rid of what they would consider the weaker people in our society, our people with special needs, our elderly by lacking supports. Oh yeah, another person died waiting in an emergency room in Alberta this week, right? What the hell, right? Like when you go to the emergency room, you should get help, not die because you didn't get help. And this is what the fourth time now in 6 weeks, right? I mean, I heard about a local incident where somebody had a heart attack and waited 60 minutes, almost over an hour for an ambulance. Like okay, we've got problems. But the UCP is going to rebrand it. So we're getting new logos on our ambulances and they're getting new uniforms in January 2027 or something. why the fuck are we spending taxpayer money on that right now? You have people dying in your waiting rooms of your government funded health care. Oh, wait, you don't want it government health funded. That's okay, right? You're privatizing. Sorry. Which is where the federal government can actually step in because they don't have the power to do this, provincial government, not without the notwithstanding clause. And it gets to be, just stupid on their part. What else is going wrong in the province? Oh, education. I've got a series of videos. I won't bore you. We're underfunded, we're overcrowded, and we're exhausted. I heard a brand new, spanking new teacher freak from university say to an EA today, "What do I do if they don't listen to me?" She's subbing in a middle school classroom in May. Welcome to education, my friend. The other, the other sub was like, "I've only ever taught in private schools. I've never had to deal with any of this." And by any of this, she meant that she had to differentiate the lesson. She had to make sure that the kids with special needs had the right test, which was a little bit different than the other kids. She had to make sure they have readers and extra time. These are things we do all the day, every day in education, right? In public education. This is not rocket science, nor is it challenging when you have supports. But without supports, as this young lady was finding out, very challenging, right? So, education, policing's got issues, right? We've got issues everywhere. And what the government has done very smartly, I suppose, is just wear us thin by getting us angry at so many issues that we just don't know where to focus our energy. And the only thing we sort of universally agree on within those groups, honestly, is the separatist issue. We have a problem with the separatist issue because we don't want to separate. Um, but honestly, if we look at the big picture and the chances of them getting it done, just let them. Just smile and wave. I mean, I'm a little salty that the Alberta flag has been claimed by them because I love Alberta. It's part of Canada. I want to fly a flag without anyone thinking that's my political ideology. Um, yeah, oh yeah, pride flags banned in schools as of the fall. Like just book bans, stupid stuff, but it's never ending. And it's not small stuff, and none of it's by accident. I mean, the fact that, the government will change the wording on things, like they changed private schools to independent schools in the new Education Act they put through last summer. That makes a big difference in how they can fund it. And it also makes a big difference to public perception. Because when you talk about independent schools, that could be charter schools. And those are provincially funded to a degree and should be, because charter schools meet the needs that public schools can't, like special education schools, language schools, even some of the religious academies, right? There's Muslim charter schools, Christian charter schools, right? Um, they deserve some funding, sure, as long as they're following the provincial curriculum, right? But you shouldn't be giving billions and millions of dollars to private schools when the public system is underfunded. If the public system was properly funded in healthcare, if it was properly funded in education, none of us would be yipper yappering at you. We'd be like, yeah, go ahead, fund your friends. More the merrier. But dude, that's not what's happening. And so the taxpayers, our money, which doesn't go nearly as far as it used to, and we all know our buying power has diminished so much. Like I saw a statistic that said in order for minimum wage to match the buying power we had in 1975, it would have to be $66 an hour. So they would have to pay people at McDonald's everywhere else $66 an hour for them to have the same buying power that people with minimum wage had before I was born. So 50 years ago. That's insane, right? So when the older generation are looking, and I'm part of that older generation now, I'm almost 50, I suppose. But when we're looking at people who are like, why aren't you buying houses? Why aren't you investing? Why? Because they can't afford to. And it's not about the goddamn avocado toast. It's about the goddamn billionaires and millionaires who are not satisfied with what they have and aren't taking care of the workers. We are the means of production. Here I go with my Marxist rants. But in all honesty, we are. And the government is supposed to work for us. That's democracy. What we have right now is not democracy, right? We have the tail wagging the dog, and the dog, our Danielle Smith, I'm not calling her a, did I just call her a dog? Roll back tape, find out. But honestly, in the metaphor, the dog. Really? Like she's flip-flopped on sides and things. You go back from back in the day when she had like remember when they made the bus when the boobs were her wheels? And that was done by accident. No, it was done by accident. Just hilarious mistake. Things I look at on days she makes me angry. I'm like, oh, boob bus. At least I don't have, a public transit running around with, you know. She doesn't know what's going on. She's never known what's going on. We've got photos of her walking in pride parades, talking about equal rights, and then, oh, wait, parents' rights. But parents' rights are everyone's rights. So these banning flags and things that you're doing actually go against what I want for my child, right? But I can't afford private education. And wait, I don't know if I want to because honestly, one of the reasons I moved from a smaller community to a larger center was my youngest child. I have 5 kids. My baby, who's out playing soccer right now, he's turning 14. But back when he was 7 or 8, we had some real problems with racism in a smaller community we lived in. And the political climate, it was around the George Floyd sort of time frame. And we really faced a lot of backlash because my son asked questions out loud. And I encourage that, right? I want to know, even if it's a hard question. Let's talk about this, right? This is how we get solutions in life is by talking, or at least we get understanding. I may not agree with you, but at least I get where you're coming from, right? Doesn't kill anybody to listen and have a conversation, right? But we moved to this area and we picked Airdrie because of the diversity. I wanted my son to not be the only black kid in his class. He's biracial. He's not even all black. In fact, of all my kids, he's the only one who has red highlights, which is bizarre because my more Caucasian kids who have a white dad, right? Like, I mean, dude. But like, just the names he was called, being called the N word and that in elementary school, I was just done with it. And also, we have the LGBTQ rainbow represented in our family, somewhat flamboyantly in places, but whatever, it's all good. I wanted him to see that our family wasn't that unusual. And when we moved here, that's in fact what happened, right? And what I've learned teaching in a school where I mean, okay, I'm clearly a white woman. I'm Christian. I talk about that. I'm an LDS member, but I was raised Protestant and Catholic for a while. One of my kids is baptized Anglican. So, I've tried all the flavors of Christianity at this point, and have somehow settled in LDS land. Yet here I am. Um, okay, that's who I am. That's my perspective. Christmas is a big deal to me. I love Christmas. I love celebrating Christmas. I love singing Christmas songs. I'm okay with keeping it secular in the public system. No problem. But then I get down here and like in my school, only 25, 30% maybe celebrate Christmas. So we start looking at what do we celebrate in our building? Oh, Diwali. Diwali's awesome. I got to learn to sing in Hindi. I learned to stick dance, right? We start celebrating other people's cultures. Doesn't mean we follow their belief system. It just means, hey, look at this cool tradition. And then let's look at things we have in common, because this is the conversation I often have in my classroom. And in fact, this is the conversation I had waiting to buy New York fries with a bunch of my boys at festival last week. We're all sitting there talking about what we can and can't eat, right? Because we've got a variety of kids. And they're like, what does halal mean? So the child who has to eat halal explains it. What's the difference between that and kosher? So we talk about that. And then they're like, oh, but we are the only religion that fasts. The Muslims, we fast. I said, actually, us Mormons over here, we fast once a month on Sunday. Right? We have fast Sunday. We're not supposed to eat before 2, and we're supposed to donate the money that we've saved to charity to feed people. Right? Oh, that's something we have in common, right? So when we're talking about Diwali, I'm like, oh, it's a festival of lights. What other holidays do we have that celebrate lights? Oh, we have New Year's, lots of lights there. We have the Lunar New Year. We have like, look for the commonalities, my friends, because that's where the strength and diversity is. The differences make us wonderful and unique, but there's common threads that run through all of this. Right. And we just have to look at those and not ignore the differences because I think the differences are amazing and they need to be celebrated. But celebrating somebody else's differences doesn't diminish your party, right? Giving them a seat at the table doesn't mean that you're going to have less fun. It just means that not only are we going to focus on your holiday, we're going to focus on other holidays too, right? We sing Kumbaya when we do our campfire song unit in grade 4. I had a sub who didn't want to do that. It's a Christian song. It has the word pray in it. I'm like, sweetie, last week we sang in Hindi. Next week we're going to be learning, something for Hanukkah. We're an inclusive environment. I don't believe in cancel culture. I think that cancel culture is incredibly dangerous. I think that shutting down ideas forces them underground where those dark ideas and those dangerous ideas can take hold and take root and feel valid. And that's not what we want, right? Truth and those sorts of things are harder to find in those shadows. And conversely, those negative ideas have a hard time flourishing in the light of transparency and truth. And I think it's really important that we keep these conversations happening. I don't care if they're uncomfortable. I've said before, I would want to have a conversation with somebody who's a separatist. I'd love you to tell me what you believe and why. And I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I might say, oh, what about this? What about that? But not in a, hey, I want to change your mind kind of way, just in, oh, have you thought about this? Oh, and you're going to be challenging me. Hey, have you thought about this? That sounds like a really healthy conversation. That sounds like an opportunity for me to learn something. I'm for that. I just think that if we allow the separatist conversation to dominate, what we're really doing is allowing the UCP to exercise powers over other things and make changes that there's no way we're going to be able to walk back easily. And for those of us who are not separatists, we really need to be finding every democratic way possible to force an election. And at this point, I believe that's possibly having to take things to a federal level. And so my letter writing, and I don't write every day. I write once a week. Um, I guess the MPs are now in my list of who I write. Um, because I'm not okay with the way the world is running. I'm not okay with watching the province that I live in, which when I moved here when I was 18 was growing and thriving and full of new ideas. And I mean, yeah, we've always kind of got the joke that we're the redneck province or whatever, but there was balance more so than there is now. I mean, it's just sort of been this kind of consistent decline into stupidity. And it's sad. It's embarrassing. The fact that we can compare Alberta politics to American politics is embarrassing. Like, honestly, sweetie, I'm a teacher in the school system. We taught you better. Like, we have taught you the facts. I don't know, maybe you were talking when I was teaching that part, but it frustrates me to no end when the information is readily available and people just believe the first blanket statement they've been told. I've been digging in and doing research. Like I've said, I'll call out either side, right? If the NDP was the one in power, I'd be yelling at them right now. And I'm not the hugest NDP fan myself, but I mean, that's a whole nother issue, right? There's so many things to talk about, so many things to focus on, and there's so many struggles that we're facing in this province that have solutions. It's just our government isn't willing to entertain any of them, right? They're listening to the people who are funding their base, and they're framing that as the majority. And I guess it's up to us whether we allow that to continue. I'm not going to. That's why I'm going to be here, yipper yappering away, hopefully with better sound. And I'm going to do what I can do. When my kids look back, when my grandchildren look back, well, no one's ever going to say that I remain silent, but you won't. There's some record that I participated in trying to move democracy forward in a positive way. And that's the kind of legacy that I want to leave in life, right? I want to be a person who helped others. I want to be a person who is kind of like Jesus and woke. Sorry, you need a shirt, I'll find you one, right? You're hungry, let me help you find food, right? I'm here to listen and not judge. Okay, that's not true. I do judge, right? Clearly I'm judging, but at the same time, I'm celebrating your fact to be a different belief system than me. All right. But I do judge uninformed decisions as that. I'm going to call it as I see it. Right. Facts are facts. And I know we can't change people's minds with facts, need some emotion and that kind of stuff to go with it. But here we are in Alberta with literally every social structure around us falling apart. And our government is promoting separatism, rebranding our healthcare services, and privatizing things. I guess you need to decide what side of the issue you're on. And if you're not against the dissent for our province and further stupidity, join on, help us write, complain, argue, post your own views. Please be engaged, be involved, and don't get burnt out. If you need to take a break, let the rest of us talk for a bit. There's been weeks when I haven't posted because I've been just like, dude, I'm angry at so many things. I don't even know what to talk about right now. So we'll channel our rage like the Canadian geese do, our cobra chickens, right? Save it for special occasions. And we need to band together. We need an election. Bottom line. So keep fighting the good fight. Leave comments. Love the dialogue. I don't care if you disagree with me. Leave your comment. Be respectful. That's all I ask. And with that, I'm gonna peace out and go watch the last 5 minutes of my kids' soccer practice in the wind. and send my condolences to our coach because one of our players from the club, New Frontiers Soccer Club, my son works with or trains with, one of our players, a young lady, passed away this weekend unexpectedly, and our coach is also her coach. So, you know, life is hard sometimes, right? And I know that the number one takeaway for that for me was hug my own kid harder. And I want you to do the same too. Love your kids, love their coaches, love their teachers, right? We're all just trying to get through this crazy life, right? So sending love. I got your back. Hope you have mine. And see you next time.